historic West Mitchell Street Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, and also the historic Vine City neighborhood in Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Frangela Merritt, AT&T Global Supply Chain and president of the Network Metro Atlanta chapter. I am elated today to be able to present a jewel in honor of one of the most celebrated times within our culture. And I also have with me our special guest, the Reverend Dr. Allen-McLaurin, to have an in-depth conversation about the history and the meaning behind what is one of our most revered songs, Lift Every Voice and Sing, also affectionately known as our National Black Anthem. Reverend Lisa Allen-McLaurin, Ph.D., is an Emmy and Webby Award-winning pastor, professor, and public theologian. She is Helmer E. Nilsson Professor of Church Music and Worship and oversees the Master of Arts in Liturgical Arts and Culture degree at the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta, Georgia, and is appointed the coordinator of practical ministries for the 6th Episcopal District of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. Dr. Allen-McLaurin holds bachelor's, master's, and PhD degrees in piano and music education from Millsaps College and the University of Southern Mississippi, and the Master of Divinity degree from the Candler School of Theology at Emory University. She is the author of A Womanist Theology of Worship, Liturgy, Justice, and Communal Righteousness, Orbis Books 2021. Worship Matters, a collection of essays on the practical and spiritual discipline of worship by Creative Publishing 2015. And Development Comes Before Deliverance, a 9-week sermon series and Bible study on the book of Exodus, Creative Publishing 2018, and is a featured musicologist in the 2015 Emmy Award-winning documentary, Reflect, Reclaim, Rejoice, Preserving the Gift of Black Sacred Music. Good evening, Dr. McLaurin.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm well.
Good, awesome. So today it is an honor to be able to have this in-depth conversation with you, talking more about the history of Lift Every Voice and Sing. As we celebrate Juneteenth, or our inaugural Juneteenth Day in 2022. So, Dr. McLaurin, I have read your bio before the AT&T audience, and just want to know, is there any additional information you would like to share with the audience, like a little bit about yourself and more about your rich music history?
Well, thank you, and I'm so glad to be here with you all. This is such an honor. Well, I've been in the church all of my life, and most of that time has been spent as a church musician. Started playing for Sunday school when I was 9. And then, pastor of worship arts, and I became ordained clergy later on. And, I have husband, children, and just a love for my people, for Black people, people of African descent, and all of God's children. And I'm delighted to talk about Juneteenth and the Negro National Anthem. Throughout my history as a musician, it is one of the songs I have come to just love. Every time I play it, every time we sing it, and I hear it.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to say I can relate a little bit. I know I'm not as brilliant as a musician as you are, right? But I do have a little bit of music background. Had a music scholarship at South Carolina State University. I actually paid my way through college, but I'm saying that to say that I'm super excited about today. A little bit of music theory going on, and some history too, so I'm super excited about that. So before we dive deeper into the history of the National Black Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, let's talk a little bit more about Juneteenth Day. Immediately when I think about the significance of this day, I hear the Sam Cooke song, "A Change Is Gonna Come." And for our viewing audience, let me share a few of those facts about Juneteenth. Juneteenth, also known as Emancipation Day, Jubilee Day, and also Freedom Day. And is also is now a federal holiday in the United States, commemorating the emancipation of enslaved African Americans. It is often observed for celebrating African American culture, originating in Galveston, Texas. And it has been celebrated annually on June 19th in various parts of the United States since 1865. And finally, Juneteenth was recognized as a federal holiday on June 17th, 2021, when President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law. So, Dr. McLaurin, it took over 156 years for the United States to acknowledge Juneteenth as a federal holiday. We've made some progress as a society, and we also have a ways to go. But Juneteenth is a constant reminder of where we came from as a society, and Juneteenth is very important to our culture as well. What does Juneteenth mean to you personally and collectively?
Well, when I think of Juneteenth, it always reminds me of the resilience of our people. The reason why Juneteenth started in Galveston, Texas is because Galveston was one of the last places where enslaved persons learned of their freedom. President Lincoln actually had warned that if the Confederate armies did not surrender he announced on September 22nd, 1862, if they had not surrendered, that he was going to sign the Emancipation Proclamation into law January 1st, 1863. And see, that's where we get watch night from, because on December 31st, all of the persons of African descent were waiting up for that Freedom Declaration to be signed. Well, it was signed, but we didn't have television, radio, we didn't have social media, and so there was no immediate notification to all of the different states, all of the different places, and so Union troops actually had to ride through all of these places, all of these states, all of these regions to announce that the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed and that enslaved Africans and their descendants were free. Now, remember, the Emancipation Proclamation only freed those persons enslaved in the Confederate States. And so we still had two border states, Delaware and Kentucky, where enslaved Africans and their descendants were not freed until after Juneteenth. It actually did not come until December 1865. Okay. And so what happens is, even after Lee surrenders at Appomattox on June 2nd, 1865, the Confederate armies in Texas did not surrender until later that month. Mm-hmm. And so once they surrendered, then General Gordon Granger came through, and his troops came through Galveston announcing that enslaved Africans were free. And so that's where we get Juneteenth from, June 19th, okay. Which is the date that happened.
Yeah, and
so just think about that. How long it took from well, first of all, just freedom in general, from 1619 until 1863. But then to have the Emancipation Proclamation signed, but then you don't know about it. You don't hear about it for another 2 years. And so our people, that just reminds me of the power, the resilience, the determination of people yearning to be free.
Absolutely. Of course, there's always that long, arduous process. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I've seen from my grandmother to my mom, and actually I had the opportunity to live, to be here with my great-grandfather. Mm-hmm. I saw that level of resiliency. And that's where I learned how to be strong within a long, arduous process as well. But this is amazing. I wanted to share also what Juneteenth means to me. Social and civic responsibility, and also honoring our ancestors. As I mentioned earlier, over 156 years, you know, we definitely made some progress within our culture, and we still have a long ways to go. However, as benefactors, we should always be held accountable of honoring our ancestors for their perseverance, their resilience, their unmitigated faith in God. And also, listen, without those qualities, we wouldn't be sitting here today, for sure.
Absolutely.
So before, Dr. McLaurin, before we have the awesome opportunity to hear your interpretation, please share with our audience the powerful story behind the National Black Anthem, or the Negro National Anthem.
So, two brothers, James Weldon Johnson and John Rosamond Johnson, are the composers, the authors of this beautiful hymn, or anthem, as some call it. And so, James Weldon Johnson at this time was principal of the Stanton School, where actually he and John attended, where their mother taught. And Stanton was the only school for African Americans children in Jacksonville, Florida, at that time. And so he had been made principal of the school, and in celebration, they wanted to do a celebratory event to commemorate the birthday of President Lincoln in 1900. And so they wrote this song, composed this song, and they taught it to the school children. And so the children sang it, and it became, it was immediately embraced by everyone. Now, what's interesting is that the brothers never really got to know how well embraced the song would be in Jacksonville, because the very next year, a fire that broke out in a mattress warehouse destroyed most of the black community because it was it raged out of control, and it burned most of the black homes. So overnight, you had 10,000 black Jacksonville residents who were homeless. Well, out of their just utter despair over that event, the brothers left, and part of why they were despairing, not just because the homes were burnt, but they were left to burn. Some of the homes of a white owner, the owner of the factory, they were saved, but the black homes were left to burn. And so they were so distraught over this event, they left and moved to New York City. Well, what happens is, in 1901, Victoria Matthews, who was a former enslaved woman, becomes an anti-lynching activist, and she becomes president of one of the colored women's clubs. So the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs now is coming into prominence now that we are in Reconstruction. So this is after the Civil War, and this is 1900, 1901, we're firmly ensconced in Reconstruction, which is kind of this rebuilding of the South, and where blacks are now being able to take advantage of some of the small gains that have been made since the end of enslavement. Well, part of that is there was a journal publication called The Colored American. It was the first periodical that focused on African American culture. And so Ms. Matthews writes an article in 1901 for The Colored American that highlights the Negro National Anthem, or as we know it now, Lift Every Voice and Sing. What this does then, of course, disseminates this information out into a just thriving black populace. And so people began to know about it. And because of the lyrics that were just so uplifting, and because of the musicality of it, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, it just becomes a song for the ages. So then, when she writes this article, people began to read about it, and then they began to hear the song and learn the song. Then it's sung at all of these different emancipation events. It's sung at Freedom Days, it's sung at Jubilee Days, but it's also sung at high school graduations, at college commencements, at meetings of these women's clubs, but also it becomes one of the main anthems for the NAACP, which James Weldon Johnson becomes the first Black executive secretary for. And so that's how the song comes into prominence.
Well, awesome. I actually have a thought in my mind when you mentioned about how this song spread like wildfire, right? I can recall those who've been in HBCUs also know it is a requirement.
Absolutely.
To know the National Black Anthem. And so, listen, the little inside joke that we had, we would hear the intro, we would stand proudly and sing boldly the first verse. After that, we kind of looking around, right? To see who really knows it, right? And we're trying to mouth what we think is going to be the next word. But listen, after today, for sure, and especially after you give us your examination of this, or talk about the musicality of it, I know for sure that I am definitely going to sing that more with pride, for
Absolutely.
sure. I also wanted to mention my favorite rendition of the Lift Every Voice and Sing is performed and recorded by Boston Pops Orchestra. One of my favorite, and let me tell you, it's where I fantasize that as a musician myself, one day directing an orchestra and a choir, right? That particular rendition of that song, I think, is one of my dreams for sure. But I absolutely love it.
It's beautiful. My favorite, since you mentioned favorite renditions, my favorite is the Roland Carter arrangement of it, which is generally performed by choirs at HBCUs and other institutions. And we've certainly done it at ITC, the Interdenominational Theological Center, where I'm on faculty.
Wonderful.
But it is an absolutely glorious arrangement.
Yeah, I will definitely listen to that for sure. Yeah, it probably take over Boston Pops.
Listen, I don't know, but it's wonderful. 8-part harmony, all these glorious harmonies, so it's wonderful.
I love it when the vocals are part of it for sure. Well, outstanding. Without further ado, I want to present Dr. McLaurin's musical rendition of an examination of the National Black Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. So Dr. McLaurin, definitely you have our ears and eyes for sure, and I look forward to this treat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Without further ado, I am honored to present to you Dr. McLaurin's rendition and examination of Lift Every Voice and Sing.
So Fran, I'm going to start with looking at each verse lyrically and musically, because I think it is just amazing the way the brothers used text painting to convey these lyrics. So it starts with an upward melodic scale. So they're singing, literally lift, they're lifting every voice. Now that's important because they are not limiting the voices. Everybody can sing this. Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring. So as above, so below. We want earth and heaven to ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. So if liberty is to be found, it will be in harmony. It will be in perfect harmony. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. The skies are listening, so that evokes that spiritual. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. So our song is reminding us of our faith that has brought us through. Sing a song. So now listen at that. It goes into this, from this major key to this minor. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. So that is a tribute to our African ancestors who believed that the east was where you turned for the rising of those who were granted immortality. And if you read history, you know that our ancestors, when they buried their loved ones, they buried them so that when they rose, they would rise to the east. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. The tempo of the song is a march tempo. It's a steady beat. They are not sugarcoating anything. We're not going to gloss over what has happened to us. So the second verse helps us to understand that the road we've trod has not always been smooth. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod. So this rod, and that evokes the Old Testament scriptures of using the rod to discipline. So it has chastened us through our history to help us know that we need to stay on the path. Fell in the day when hope unborn had died. So this hope that they sang of in the first verse was born, but in some sense it felt it was unborn, because it felt like freedom would never come. And even in some of the more hopeless moments of despair, we felt like it had died. Yet with a steady beat, there's that steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. Our fathers and mothers who have worked so diligently, so tirelessly to bring about this freedom, now we are beginning to see it come to fruition. And so what is this way? We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter. So we are remembering, the brothers are remembering here, that there have been many thousands gone, many millions gone in this quest for freedom. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. So we're still ending in hope. And then a lot of musicians, what we'll do here is we'll modulate here, because we're coming to the last verse. And generally when we perform this, the last verse is done in a very reverent way, because this is the prayer that Miss Matthews wrote about. She said it was not just anthem, but it was a reverent prayer. God of our wearies, we're talking directly to God. God of our silent tears, those tears that could not even be voiced by our ancestors. They had to hold that inside. Thou hast brought us thus far on the way. So who has brought us? Not us by ourselves, but the good Lord above, who has been walking with us this whole time, who has been watching over us, who has been keeping us, who has been sustaining us and providing for us so that we could come to this place. Thou hast by thy might, not our might, God's might, lead us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. So this is that path that we talked about in verse 2, over this way that we've come with tears that have been watered through the blood of the slaughter. So how does God keep us? How are we praying that God, and why are we praying that God will keep us? Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. So don't get so enamored of this, what's going on in this reconstruction or this hopeful new thing, that we forget who has brought us over. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world. What's the wine of the world? Success as the world sees it. Right. Empire. That we must avoid at all costs, lest we be co-opted by it and corrupted by it. It says, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. May we forever stand. How will we stand? True to our God first, true to our native land. Native land is Africa. Even though we live in the diaspora, we will always remember our ancestors who gave so much and who we celebrate and honor.
Dr. McLaurin, that was outstanding. Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much. You know, I am very full with pride right now. Not that I wasn't before, but this has definitely helped me understand the song more, of course. And I believe this is going to definitely provide to our audience more of an enriching, you know, examination of, or just a more enriching perspective of our culture and what our culture is really about. This, what we discussed today, was the genesis of what our culture is. And you know, after today, absorbing this brilliant lecture, understanding the emotional journey, and definitely sharing with us about the story of our heroes and heroines, even after through the struggle, you must rejoice. I know for myself, I will make sure that I know every lyric after today and sing with newfound pride for sure. Thank you, Dr. McLaurin, for your time with us today.
Thank you.
On behalf of our AT&T employees and the network, we are honored to have spent this time with you today for a deeper understanding of the message behind our national blank anthem. Lift every voice and sing. And to hear you bring this song to life through your amazing voice and in your words. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amen, amen. And to my family at the network and AT&T, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was a treat, as it was for me today, for sure. And now, after we part, you will definitely hear a musical rendition or a musical interlude by Miss Zoe Frazier, student and member of Fisk University and the Jubilee Choir at Fisk University. Her beautiful voice will be singing her rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing. We hope you enjoy, and thank you. Happy Juneteenth.
Hi, my name is Zoe Frazier. I'm a sophomore at Fisk University from Detroit, and I'll be singing Lift Every Voice and Sing for you today in honor of Juneteenth. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we tried, bitter the chastening ride, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our Father sighed. We have come over a way with that tears have been watered. We have come treading our path right through the blood of the slaughtered, out of the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who has brought us thus far on the way, Thou who has by Thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met Thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget Thee, shadowed beneath Thy hand. May we forever stand true to our guide, true to our native land. Thank you.